What's up, everybody? So I really wanted this video to be the black car on the dyno, but I kind of ran into some problems. Um, so of course we switched this other turbo onto the car, and I've been driving the car around a little bit, just playing with the tune, trying to get everything a little bit closer before I put it on the dyno. And one day I look and the car's smoking really bad. And I pull it in the garage, and I hear this like grease popping and sizzling noise. And yeah, so I'll put that clip in right now. So after that, I realized that the seals in my turbo are bad. So I've kind of just been waiting, saving up money to buy a new turbo. So I've finally done it. I've got a new turbo, and today I'm going to be putting it on and, of course, making more changes to the car. So I guess we'll get into it, and I will show you the new turbo. Alright, so here's the new turbo. It's from a local guy near me. His business is Remnant Performance, and this is his 62 Omega turbo. And it's supposed to be comparable to a Z31. He does a couple things different than Garrett. He does different turbine wheel material, and there's a few other tricks that he does to them. But this is ball bearing, billet wheel, oil, water cooled, and then of course dual V-band. And this is the .83 AR housing. I might change it up to a 101 if I have some problems. But I'm excited to see what this turbo does. The owner of the business, he's getting into the A90 supermarket right now. And then, of course, he does the V6 Hyundai Genesis. He makes a single turbo kit for that. So I'm excited to see how this turbo does. I'm definitely going to be excited about having a newer tech turbo. So we'll get the old GTX turbo that I have off, and we'll put the two side by side. Alright, well, I got the turbo off, and here are the two side by side. This is the old GT35 from CX Racing I've had for years. This thing's gone through a lot of abuse. I'm actually surprised the turbo lasted as long as it did. And then the new one, definitely tell slight wheel size difference, but overall they're about the same size. So the biggest thing is, of course, change my flange on the turbo, or the manifold from a 4-bolt and going to V-band. So at the same time, I'm going to change the piping size to kind of keep the velocity up through here. So I'm going to step down to, I believe it's 2 1/4, and that's what size the V-band is going into the turbo. So I'm going to start taking all this apart, cut the V-bands off on either side, and get started making the new setup. Wish me luck. Alright, so last night I got the collector off for the turbo setup, cut the two V-bands off of it. Later I will cut the wastegate off, but went ahead and also welded the V-band on the back of the turbine housing. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything put back together. But first I will show you what this turbine housing looks like with a 3.5 inch V-band. Alright, so here is the turbine housing. Went ahead and welded on this V-band. It's 3.5 inch. It's definitely tell a size difference between the 3 inch and the 3.5 for sure. So this thing's definitely going to spool up as quick as it possibly can. So I'll go ahead and get this thing on, and then we're going to start running the new collector tubes up to the turbo. So I'll get this thing bolted up. Alright, so started out with a stainless UJ for building the Y pipe or the collector. It's got it cut apart, and then I have a pipe expander to expand the pipe up to the 2.5 inch, and then it slips in my V-band. And then I'm going to take my other half, stick it in the turbo, and kind of get a rough idea of how everything's going to fit. I'm going to have to cut this U in half just so I can clock it in the position that I want, and then start tacking things together. Alright guys, well, I've got 1/2 of the collector set up. So I've got it pretty close to where I want it to be exactly. I know I'll have to make some small changes to it when it comes time to weld the two pieces together, but this is pretty much what I got. I'm happy with it. I'm going to start on the other side and see how it'll finish up. Alright, after an hour or so of just messing around with the piping and the plumbing of everything, pretty much got it set up. So let's go under here, got the collector. Everything's not fit up exactly perfect because kind of have to hold it in place for it to be exactly how I need it, but it's close enough to show y'all. So I guess I'll start getting all this welded up and just tacked in place so I know it's good. Well, went ahead and just welded everything up. I back purged the whole assembly, but pretty happy with how everything came out. Welds look halfway decent. So I'm probably gonna tee off for the wastegate somewhere over here, and I'm thinking about putting my gate somewhere over here. I'll definitely have to brace it because it's pretty heavy, but I don't know. I'm gonna play around with a couple ideas. So I've got to order some different piping for my wastegate. I need 2-inch stainless piping, and all I have is 2 1/4 or 2.5 and 3. So got to get some 2-inch, get that coming. But in the meantime, I've got to redo my charge pipe for this side. I've got it running through the frame rail and then going right here to the intercooler, and it's actually 2-inch. So I'm going to go ahead and get a piece of 2-inch cut up to a little less than a 90 to connect to it, and then measure and add another length of straight piping, and then put my blow-off valve on. Alright, this is my hot side charge pipe. Of course it's 2-inch like I was talking about. I want to keep my velocity up as much as possible until it goes into the intercooler. I don't want to have much pressure drop coming right out of the turbo. I want to keep this thing pretty efficient. I want it to spool very quickly, so this is what I decided to do instead of keeping the 2.5 inch. And then of course I've got my tile blow-off valve, and then the flange for it I'll have to grind down and get it to fit. Of course you can see there's a big gap, so I'm going to get that to fit, get it in position, get everything welded up nice, and bead roll the end over here. I just reused the end that was on the pipe originally and just tack it in place because I needed just a little bit longer. So that's it. Alright, well, I had a busy week at work. Haven't really touched the car any. I had a Subaru I had to wrap up and get the motor in, get it running. And then Had a Aventador SVJ, had to do a full exhaust system on. So I haven't really had much time to do anything with the car this week when I get home, but I'll show you what I have done since the last clip that I took. And a couple small things, but that's it. But I'll show you that stuff right now. All right, well, here is the hot side charge pipe. I've got the blow-off valve installed, everything welded up, completed. Just gotta clean it out and put it on the car. And then I've started work on my wastegate. This is going to be the tube coming from the collector. I'll show you how that fits on the car in just a second. So it's going to go here in the collector and then run the wastegate over on top of the turbine housing, and then I'm going to recirculate it back into the downpipe. So I'll get this pulled back out, get my hole cut out, and get everything tacked in place. And then this thing will be almost ready to get going. Alright, well, I got the first bit of the wastegate tube tacked in place. Got it ported out inside. It's kind of a rough port. I'll go back in there and clean it up whenever I get done. But go ahead and get this welded up and then get the next couple pieces on and get the wastegate on. Alright, so all I got left is the V-band for the wastegate. Really happy with how everything is turning out. Had a spot right here where my hole saw slipped, so a little upset about that, but it's not that big of a deal. But definitely happy with how everything's coming out. So let me get this last V-band on, and then it'll be time to clean everything up and put it all together for the last time. Alright, well, it is complete. Wait for this thing to cool down. Put the wastegate on, not in the correct position, but use it as a heat sink to keep my flange from warping. So once this cools down, we will get it on the car. After I blow everything out, make sure it's clean, and get this thing fired up finally. This is the last time I'm messing with the turbo on this thing. And then we're going to get this thing buttoned up and get it on the dyno. Ready for it to be done, ready for it to be tuned. So yeah, it's all completed. Got to change up these fittings here and get it all put together. Alright, for the first time, everything is all together. A little bit of a pain putting it together the first time, but got it figured out. So all I've got to do is run my wastegate back into the downpipe at some point. Not going to mess with it today. I really just want to hear this thing fire up. So throw a battery in it, get the garage door open, and fire it up, see how it sounds. Alright, got it all fired up. So far it doesn't sound much different. Still got to do the water lines at some point. I'm going to tee them right into the radiator itself. But so far, no leaks. Everything looks pretty good. Alright, well, as you can see, got this thing fired up finally with, hopefully this is the last turbo I have to put on the car. Yeah. 3 turbos, I'm done. But anyway, I got it fired up. Sounds pretty good. I like how you can actually hear the turbo through the exhaust. That's pretty interesting. I haven't ever had that before. But yeah, it's all together. I'm going to have to do the wastegate, recirculate it back into the downpipe because I'm kind of wanting the car a little quieter. And then, of course, it is raining, and I don't know how this turbo is going to respond, so I don't want to drive it the first time in the rain. So that'll have to wait for next time. But anyway, that's it. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content, and have a good night.